Donald Trump and his running mate, JD Vance, they have a habit of pushing things that are simply untrue. They will literally just raw dog a lie. They will stand out in the world, declare something to be true. If it's debunked, they don't care. If they made it up, that's fine. If they were sincerely believing it was true and then got new information, they ignore it. This is who and what the Trump administration and now the Trump Vance campaign are prone to doing. Well, they're doing it again. Right now, they are continuing to advance a false claim about Haitian migrants. Uh, for a while now, days, if not weeks, they've been arguing that Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio, JD Vance's state, they're stealing ducks and they're stealing cats. And they're not just stealing them, they're also allegedly eating them. That's right. The man who hates childless cat ladies is now telling people to lock up their pets. Uh, Now, Trump said it, but this is a Vance whopper. Vance is the one who's been running around with this ridiculous story. And it's been debunked. It's a racist lie. It's an unfounded myth. But why let the truth get in the way of a good story? Well, fortunately, we had a journalist who, for once in this crazy moment, had the professionalism and the temerity and the honesty and the integrity to actually challenge him on the lie, a lie that was debunked last night during the debate. Well, NBC's Yamiche Alcindor, a brilliant journalist, a wonderful journalist who we've seen on the front lines standing up for truth multiple times, especially against Donald Trump. She caught up with Vance. She challenged him on this, and Vance did what Vance does. He did what Trump would do. He just doubled down on the lie and turned the lie into a super lie. Check out what he said.
Competence of Kamala Harris.
Senator Vance, what do you say to Haitian Americans and Haitian immigrants who say spreading false claims about them put their lives at risk?
Well, I don't think that no one has spread false claims. What they've said is that a small migrant community, 20,000, so it's big for the city of Springfield, but it's small compared to all Haitians in the United States of America, that small migrant community has caused a lot of problems. It's led to higher rates of communicable diseases. That's a verifiable fact. It's led to animals disappearing. Many of my constituents have said that has been happening. It's led to higher home prices. That is a verifiable fact. So this influx has led to a lot of.
But you said that immigrants have eaten animals, and city officials have said that that's not true.
City officials have said that's not true. That's not actually accurate. What they've said.
Springfield city manager said there's no evidence that immigrants are eating animals, and you have been saying, and Donald Trump just said on stage that they are eating animals. I'm asking you. Yes, I'm asking you. I'm asking you.
Can you answer? Go ahead. Can you ask the question and then let me answer it?
Yes, please.
The city manager said there's no verifiable evidence. A lot of residents on the ground have said that there is. That just means the city manager, I think, isn't fully in touch with what's going on the ground there. I've heard from many of my own constituents who have seen these things with their own eyes, who have seen these abductions with their own eyes.
So let's think about this for a second. Donald Trump says something ridiculous based on what JD Vance said to him, which was ridiculous, right? That Haitian migrants are not just stealing people's ducks and cats, but eating them. And Vance is, I was trying to pull the physical transcript, sorry for the tech issue here, but we have a transcript here between JD Vance and Yamiche Alcindor. And when she challenges him on the facts, he says, well, I don't think that. He said, no one has spread false claims. What they've said is that a small migrant community, 20,000, so it's big for a city of Springfield, but small, blah, blah, blah. It's led to the small migrant community has caused a lot of problems. It's led to higher rates of communicable diseases. That's a verifiable fact. That's led to animals disappearing. Many of my constituents have said that have said that has been happening. It's led to higher home prices. That's a verifiable fact. So she pushes back and says, but you say that immigrants have eaten animals. The city officials say it's not true. She said that's not, he said that's not actually accurate. City officials have said that's not true, it's not accurate. And she again reiterates, Springfield city manager said there's no evidence that immigrants are eating animals. And you've been saying it, they just said it, right? So he tries to do the double reverse. He says, that just means the city manager isn't fully in touch with what's going on the ground. I've heard from my own constituents who have seen these things with their own eyes, who have seen these abductions with their own eyes, who have seen these geese being taken out of local parks and slaughtered in front of their eyes. What do I think is a bigger problem? Insulting 20,000 people, blah, 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 blah. So he says, wait a minute, are you calling the people liars? Are you saying that my constituents are liars? I stand by my constituents when they say that they watched geese abductions, they watched slaughters with their own eyes. He didn't go so far as say they watched the consumption of these animals with their own eyes, but all of it is so silly. I'll tell you why. One, there's a serious element to this, and that is that there's a long history of framing immigrants, particularly Black and brown immigrants, as diseased populations. They also did that to Jews. They also did that to Irish at one point. They've done it to Italians at one point. But there's a kind of uninterrupted tradition of framing Black and brown people as diseased, and Haitians in particular have long been accused of carrying diseases, long been accused of being uncivilized by Western standards. These are all white supremacist, imperialists, colonial, settler colonial, whatever you want to call them, lies that are used to justify the dehumanization of these people, but also their exploitation, their oppression, their manipulation, and ultimately their disposability. In other words, they tell you all these lies about these people so they can justify exploiting them, taking their stuff, and making you think they didn't deserve it in the first place. And so when you hear a story about Haitians sneaking in and stealing geese or cats or whatever and eating them, it's playing into that. It's playing into all these narratives about the exotic other who can't be trusted, about these indigenous religions and indigenous traditions and indigenous cultures of a place that aren't as good as ours. And when those people who have stuff that's not as good as ours come over here, they try to smuggle in all their not as good as ours traditions and practices and rituals, and we can't have it. So these white people are saying that. And instead of just acknowledging that it's a myth or that he got bad information, JD Vance doubles down. So I've been told this by people who saw it with their own eyes. So, and he's saying that the city officials aren't on the ground. So the Trump administration is a law and order administration. The Trump administration is an administration that prides itself on listening to cops, trusting cops. You know, Blue Lives Matter. We stand with the police no matter what. We want to end. You know, we want to make sure that there's that they get federal. We want to give them federal qualified immunity. We want to make sure that you can't hold a cop accountable for anything because they got a tough job and they're almost always right. But now all of a sudden, all these 20,000 white people, or all these tens or hundreds of thousands of white people who are now being infiltrated by 20,000 Haitians are watching live animal abductions and slaughters and people eating whole chickens, feathers coming out of their mouth, all this wild ridiculousness. They're watching it. Are we to believe that these white people don't call the police? I don't know any community of white people. Shit, I don't know any community of any people that watch mass animal abductions and don't call the police, and don't nobody love their pets more than white Americans. White people love them some pets. If a white person had saw a cat missing or a dog missing, I guarantee you they call in the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, the FBI, the GBI, the CIA, everybody, Scotland Yard, they don't care. They call in everybody. So we're to believe that somehow all these Black and brown people are harming all the property of these white people, and the police aren't being contacted, or the police are contacting them and simply can't find evidence? Because the city official said there's no evidence. The city official, they're not calling the city accountant. They're talking about the mayor. They're talking about the police chief. They're talking about people who have connections to the ground. So you're effectively asking us to believe now that these random white people, these random white citizens, are telling the truth. And are the police covering it up? Are the police, is it that difficult to find evidence that someone stole your cat and ate it? I mean, this is how stupid this sounds. And JD Vance knows it's not true. He knows it's not true. That's the sad part. JD Vance is too smart to be that dumb. But what JD Vance also knows is that there's a population of people who have an investment in believing the narrative. There is a population of American citizens who want to believe the worst about migrants so that they can justify their xenophobia and their draconian public policy desires. They want to be able to build walls and ban Muslims and block Haitians and do all these things. And so they come up with the most ridiculous stories. They lie about them. They post them. They distribute them on social media. And then Joe Schmo, who believes in urban legends, there's a wonderful book called Heard It Through the Grapevine that talks about how urban legends spread. It's a classic book. You should read it. People then believe it, or they think they saw it, or they believe their next door neighbor saw it. And if my next door neighbor saw it, then I might as well have seen it. And so suddenly it becomes whispered down the lane. And so now everybody says, oh, everybody knows this happens, when in fact there's no evidence of it happening. But again, JD Vance doesn't have to get into the folklore theory of it. He just knows that if a bunch of people think this is happening and he can create a panic around it, then they will believe that the only people who can save them, right, are Trump Vance. The same people who are willing to believe that Haitians are eating cats are also desperate to believe that Trump and Vance can protect them from those animal eating, pet stealing Haitian migrants. That is why it's so important to debunk in real time. It's so important that the debate last night featured live fact checking, but it's also so important that reporters, that journalists confront these people at every opportunity. We have to challenge them at every turn so that when JD Vance responds the way he just did, he looks and sounds as stupid as he just did, because then the voter can say, okay, wait, at least a reasonable voter can say, wait a minute. And in a state like Ohio, you need just a slice of reasonable voters to make a different choice. Anyway, we'll move on, because this is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard and seen. And I see some of y'all in the comments defending this. Defend yourselves, explain yourselves. I'm not even going to engage y'all today. I instead am going to let the comment section, I'm going to let the class handle the light work. All right, y'all, we got to move on to another story that I think is important. A story that I know is important. And a comment that came up about that. I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. By the way, we got some comments coming in. Jazz said, Mark, Donald Trump and his cronies picked the right person for Trump VP. They knew that JD would lie and do anything for Donald Trump. That is absolutely true. Little Miss 222 said, exactly. I'm old enough to remember when a Chinese food restaurant popped up in town. People would talk ish. Very true. Again, playing on lies, stereotypes, ugly untruths about communities of people. And then suddenly people would say, oh, that restaurant popped up. Oh, yeah, you heard about that missing cat. Oh, yeah, my cat went missing. Or my best friend's cat went missing. Usually the way lies work is that no one says it happened to them. They say it happened to someone they know. So it's just close enough that it's trustworthy and doesn't feel like it's hearsay, but no one has to be accountable for the lie. And so then suddenly it becomes whispered down the lane and everybody trusts everybody. And Chinese people, Chinese Americans are ultimately harmed by this. Migrants from Haiti are harmed by this. We could go on and on through all the different people.